Wow, thanks, Voce Women. How beautiful. And what a beautiful tribute to this beautiful life that we're going to talk about today. One of my favorite books of 2020 has undoubtedly been Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And it's a very empowering book for women. And in the beginning of the book, she talks about a cheetah named Tabitha. And Tabitha is a cheetah that was born in a zoo, and her best friend is Minnie, who is a golden Labrador. And at the zoo, there's this demonstration where first the Labrador will run after this stuffed pink bunny that's tied to the back of a Jeep, and then Tabitha will come out and run after that bunny as well, and then be rewarded with a steak. Well, after that demonstration, Tabitha is put back in her cage. And Glennon's daughter says to her, "Look at her, Mom. Look, she looks kind of different." And Glennon talks about how she looks regal and her head's held high. And she's gazing outside of the cage walls, thinking, perhaps, I think my life could have been more beautiful than this. There's something between her and having that freedom, that life, that beautiful life. And she doesn't know what it is, of course, as a cheetah raised in a zoo. Well, and many of us do this well, and I should just be grateful for what I have. You know, we can feel that way too. We can feel caged, especially when we let unforgiveness cage us in. Unforgiveness can stand between us and this beautiful life that we are meant to live. We aren't free, just like the cheetah, when we withhold forgiveness. And life is much more beautiful on the other side of that cage wall. But we resign ourselves to living this way, this caged up way. Many of us have been trained to act a certain way, to behave a certain way, trained by society, trained by our parents who didn't know any better, trained by our embedded theologies. An eye for an eye behavior is old thinking. It may work for us on some level, but it doesn't work for our souls. There's a much better way. There's a much more beautiful way to live than that. It doesn't have to be like this, like Tabitha perhaps was thinking. We can free ourselves to a more beautiful life when we put on a spiritual lens. And I share this with you because today is week 6 of our series, our 7-week series of Radical Forgiveness, our small group program that we're working with the book Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping. This week we're working with chapters 14, 16, and 17. And chapter 14, I love the title of chapter 14. It's As Above, So Below. You know, as within, this also is in alignment with, as within, so without, or on earth as it is in heaven, meaning that our inner thoughts create the experience that we have in our lives. It's our third unity principle, that we don't change the circumstances, outer circumstances, but we do change how we experience them with our thoughts and our beliefs and our emotions. Last Sunday, Kevin and I were in Breckenridge, and we decided we were going to go on a hike. We were going to hike, and I don't remember the name of the hike, but it wasn't a far drive from where we were staying in Breckenridge. And we looked at the map, and we wanted to get to the lower Mohawk Lake. Now, this path was rated difficult, and I have never done a hiked a trail that was rated difficult before, but we thought, well, you know, how difficult can it really be? Let's just try it. And Kevin said, we'll go and we'll turn around, if we have to, and that's okay. Well, as we were hiking up this, which was difficult and steep, and it was hard, we kept passing people that were coming down, and we'd ask them, how was Mohawk Lake? And they said, oh, so worth it, so worth it. Now, let alone, most of these people were like 30 years younger than us. I do have to qualify it. But so we made this our goal, that we were going to get to Mohawk Lake. We wanted to see Mohawk Lake. Everybody said it was worth it. We got as far as a waterfall, which was quite steep, all rock, a lot of loose rock. I had my poles, my walking sticks, and was feeling very uncomfortable, very scared. I got to a point where I felt trapped, caged in. I didn't know how to go up any further. If I had taken a wrong step, I'd be over the side where the waterfall was, where it was all rocks, and that would be it. So Kevin climbed up a little ways further and just, let me see, maybe we're just right there, and it would just, give us that little edge to get up there. He went up a little farther than I was, and he shouted down to me, we don't want to do this. We want to turn around. It only gets worse. So he comes back to me and helps me get down, because going down is more difficult for me than going up. And I kept apologizing. I'm so sorry. We didn't reach our goal. We didn't get to the lake. We didn't see what we wanted to see. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And Kevin said, will you please stop apologizing? And in that moment, I realized that, the goal was to just hike. The goal was the journey. The goal, yes, we changed our goal to get to the lake during the hike, but really, it's about the journey. And once I was able to make that switch in my mindset, that change in perception, that I didn't have to get to the lake, it became a lot more fun. I was proud of myself for what we had done. I freed myself to a more beautiful experience because I was seeing it through a different lens. And that's so important when we're on this journey of life, to have a greater view of things. Society right now is challenging us. As above, so below. I Googled as above, so below. Would you know it's the title of a horror movie? where this woman is trying to go down into the catacombs of Paris, and it was based on maybe the 7 layers of hell. It doesn't have to be that way. But it can feel that way, right? The political climate is heating up. The pandemic the virus is getting worse, especially in our state. We're hearing about this. There's been nothing done to curb racial injustice. The fires that are raging and growing and spreading throughout Colorado. We don't know why these things are happening. We don't know. And so it can help us to look at them from a more radical forgiveness perspective. Mark Nepo is a poet, and he says, when things fall apart, they make a lot more noise. I was reminded of the glaciers in Alaska. Kevin and I went to Alaska for our honeymoon. And, when the glaciers, when they calve, when pieces fall off, it's really loud. When things are falling apart, there's a lot of noise, and it's really loud. But at the same time, divine guidance is really soft, and good things are quiet. They don't make the same amount of noise. When things are coming together, they're soft, they're quiet. And these things are also happening, but they're not grabbing our attention like the loud things are. Like divine guidance is received in the quiet, the still small voice. So how are we seeing society right now? Are we seeing it as chaotic, as destructive, like a horror movie? How about that person we don't want to forgive? Can we see them differently? Can we see our society differently? It's an invitation that we all get, but us on a spiritual path can really embrace and work through and work on. Imelda Shanklin is a Unity minister, and she says this: "Father, forgive me for expecting in the human that which is found only in the divine." You know, we expect in the human of a person things that only the Christ within can express. So we have to take responsibilities for our attitudes. We expect to see in other people that which is in the Christ of them. But we see the human, and we build resentments, and we withhold forgiveness. Seeing something in its entirety is radical, is considered perfect. You know, the root of, or the historical meaning of the word perfect was not flawless, it was thorough. The same as radical is thorough, complete, whole. And so we want to look at things radically, wholly, completely. That's seeing through a spiritual lens. But most of the time, we only see through our limited human perspectives. We need to get ourselves out of the way so that we can see with this spiritual lens. This is our theme for the years, 2020 Perfect Vision, which ties in beautifully with the reading for today. Seeing through a spiritual lens. Aligning with our higher selves, aligning with that Christ within, seeing that in ourselves, and then being able to see it in other people around us. You know, to pray means to consciously connect with that knowing within. It's where we find peace and freedom. It's where we are no longer caged in, like Tabitha. Colin Tipping says this in Radical Forgiveness on page 179, "The purest form of prayer we can engage in is to feel peace. The kind of peace that comes when we surrender totally to what is, as is, in the knowledge and comfort that Spirit has it all handled, and that it will all work out for the best if we can just get ourselves out of the way." Can you get yourselves out of the way? Can you see things from this broader perspective, maybe perfectly or radically, see the wholeness of it and not just our own perception? Can we see the humor in things? It can be really challenging with everything that's going on in our world to find the humor, especially when we're watching the news a lot. I was looking at Good News Network yesterday and came across these signposts. A restaurant in Austin, Texas, is known for their comic signs since the 80s, and they posted these from the pandemic in front of their restaurant. "I never imagined I'd go to the bank teller with a mask on and ask for money." Let's go to the next one, Lisa. Or, "Have you tried putting 2020 in rice?" Yeah, like we do with our phones when they get wet. Go on. "Just remember, someone out there is quarantined with your ex." I can tell Janice has an ex or two. And pretty wild that we used to eat cake after someone had to blow on it. You know, it can be really helpful to have some humor during all the heaviness that we're feeling this year, all the stuff going on. We don't always see, with this heaviness, we don't always see the beauty that's in the world because it's in the quiet and the soft. Our sub-theme, Unity.org has a sub-theme each month during this theme of 2020 vision, and for October, the sub-theme is beauty. I love that. We had our beautiful women's voce singing today for you. It's beauty. And, the saying beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, but what eyes are we using to look at beauty? What eyes are we looking at? Are we looking at from these eyes? The eyes that look in the mirror, the eyes that look outward, the eyes that judge? Or are we looking from the I am, the I within, maybe that third eye? And when we look from that I, from that capital I, we can see the beauty, the perfection, the wholeness that makes up our lives. I love that Reverend Kelly Isola, in her post for this month about beauty, talks about, the scars that we have. Sometimes we look in the mirror and that's all we see are the scars that we have, maybe on our bodies, maybe on our face. And we just see those scars. But instead of letting those scars define us, we can let them design us. Design us. See the beauty of those scars. See the fullness of life that was created, that was lived, as Glenna talks about in Untamed, to live, really live that life that maybe caused those scars, and see the beauty of having them. It's really a different way of looking at things, to see that beauty in ourselves, to see that beauty in another. And forgiveness allows us to do that. This week, I've been working with the worksheets. If you got our e-bulletin or you're in a small group, you'll get them from your group facilitator this week. But the worksheets that Colin Tipping has about radical forgiveness. And I was working with this one today, or this week, a radical transformation worksheet. It's one of the attachments on your e-bulletin. And this one is applying the strategy of radical forgiveness to world events. Something maybe many of us could use, looking at world events and answering these questions and seeing what can we do? What is ours to do with these world events? And maybe the answer is nothing, but we can raise the consciousness level. We can change the way we're looking at them. We can see them from a radical, perfect, whole, thoroughly, complete way of looking at them. And I did this worksheet at home, and after I was done, I felt a whole lot better. What is mine to do may not have a big effect on what's going on in the world, but it can change my experience of it, where I can then still see the beauty in life. Colin Tipping says this: the way we experience earth changes depends upon our perception of what is happening. A radical forgiveness perspective will enable us to stay focused on the perfection of what is happening in the moment and will carry us through to the joy and peace on the other side of the experience. This is not an easy thing to do. It's really challenging, but we're up for this. And it's especially not easy to do when we dig in. We dig our heels and we draw a line in the sand and we say, I'm not going to forgive that. I refuse to see the good in that person. There's no good in that person. But we're invited to look for that, to see the blessing in every situation. To not dig our heels in and see things from only our limited view. On Friday night, I watched a movie on Netflix called American Son. It was very difficult to watch, and it moves really slowly. The main character is played by Kerry Washington, a black woman. And her son is missing, and she's at the police station in a waiting area. And it's 4:00 in the morning, and it's raining, storming out. And she doesn't know where her 18-year-old son is. And just like the path to racial justice has been really slow, this movie moves really slow. And it has several twists. And I'm not going to share the story with you about the movie because I want you, if you plan to watch it, it would be a great movie to do a Netflix watch party with and then discuss afterwards. Because there's several twists and turns in it. There's things that happen that you don't expect, that you don't see coming. But it's a great movie in that each character digs in and refuses to see anything but their own perspective. If ever there was a need for radical forgiveness, it's in situations such as this, which could, as far as I know, it was based on a Broadway play, not real life, but it could definitely be a real life situation. We need to see beyond our own perceptions. You know, Kevin and I had a great conversation about it the next morning. So if you end up watching it, I would love to talk to somebody else besides Kevin about this movie and talk about the different dynamics. But where are you willing or unwilling to see beyond your own perception? Are you willing to surrender to divine order? And by divine order, I don't mean predetermination. I don't mean that something is fated and we have no say in things that happen because we have free will. We do have a say. But in unity, divine plan means the only divine plan is coming into greater awareness that we are spiritual beings, that we are divinely made and created. So are you willing to see that everything is unfolding perfectly and for your highest good? It's quite a challenge. In this worksheet, the Radical Transformation worksheet, there's an invocation that I want to share with you. It says, "May we all stand firm in the knowledge and comfort that all things are now, have always been, and forever will be in divine order, unfolding according to a divine plan. And may we truly surrender to this truth whether we understand it or not. May we also ask for support in consciousness in feeling our connection with the divine part of us, with everyone and with everything, so we can truly say and feel, we are one." Are you willing to free yourself to a more beautiful life? To open your perceptions and broaden your perceptions to a radical, perfect, whole? Imagine what life would be like if more of us would do that. I want to invite you now into a time of extended meditation. And for this meditation, I'm going to use the 13 steps to radical forgiveness process, which Colin Tipping talks about in this reading assignment this week. It was challenging to find it. I just want to say this, I had to Google it, and we'll have this in the update for you this week. But I invite you to just Get yourself centered. Gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And allow me to help you work through this 13-step process. So think of a story or a situation and allow all the feelings to come with that situation. Allow them all to come to the surface. You may become aware of where these feelings are in your body. And if you are, put your hand on that place in your body. For me this week, it was my throat. I was feeling choked up. It may be that for you, maybe your heart, maybe your belly. Wherever it is, put your hand on that place. Take a moment and let the feelings come up to be expressed if they need to. Don't judge them. And if there are tears, let them flow. It's okay. Even if you don't understand how or why, are you willing to be open to the possibility that the situation may be purposeful and that your higher self has created the situation for your spiritual growth? It takes a very small amount of willingness. Are you willing? Do you realize that your upset is a direct reflection of something that needs to be healed? And that even if you cannot see it, the healing message is contained in the situation. Are you willing to release your need to judge the situation as right or wrong, good or bad? Even if you can't explain how or why, can you simply allow the situation to be perfect just the way it is? Can you be open to the idea that you only get upset when someone resonates in you, something about you that you have denied, repressed, and projected onto them? And that what is upsetting you about the other person represents a part of you that is crying out to be loved and accepted. Even if you have no idea what that part of you is that you have disowned, are you willing to unconditionally love and accept that part of you right now in this moment? And if there are others involved, are you willing to be open to the idea that you attracted them into your life and that subconsciously you are both receiving exactly what you need? Enabling each of you to let go of your addiction to being a victim so you can reconnect with your true nature and access the power within you. Do you recognize that in forgiving them, you have forgiven yourself? Now, with your eyes closed, you can nod your head. I'm going to assume I can see you. Confirmed that the feelings have begun to subside. And you can feel the divine love behind the situation. And you can nod your head yes again when the story that was attached to these feelings has lost some or most of its charge. Or maybe you can't even remember what it was. And finally, forgiveness always begins with a change in perception and a shift in energy. You may now begin feeling this occurring within you. Notice any sensations in your body that confirm this is happening. As though it's taking you away from the attention you're giving the story and that you had previously given power to. And instead focusing on the truth. Take a moment or two, keeping your eyes closed. When you feel this happening, you can come back to the room. And I invite you to just hold this for another moment in the silence.